but in any sunshine, it will still feel pretty warm.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, Labour are going to scrap plans to ban sex education for those under 9 years old, possibly paving the way for gender identity into our schools, or continuance of that. The battle over trans swimmers at Hampstead Heath is set to go all the way to the High Court. Venice Allen joins us for all of the latest about that. A radical new proposal has suggested stripping defendants of jury trials as the government looks to tackle the chronic court backlog. But is this the right solution? And could Angela Rayner and Labour's Islamophobia law hand reform a 100-seat majority, as pollsters warn it could set off a tinderbox among working-class voters? The latest set to free speech and more as Brits feel like they can no longer speak their minds. And we've got some comedians answering some crazy culture developments from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Bethany Elsley.
Good evening. The latest headlines from the GB newsroom. At least 67 Palestinians have been killed and dozens more injured by Israeli fire as they waited for UN aid trucks in northern Gaza. Authorities say it's one of the highest reported number of deaths among repeated recent cases where Israeli troops target aid seekers, including 36 people that were killed yesterday. Israeli military claimed troops fired warning shots towards a crowd of thousands to remove what it called an immediate threat. But the UN said 25 trucks carrying food aid were approaching massive crowds of hungry civilians when they came under fire. It comes as Israel issued new evacuation orders for areas in Gaza packed with displaced people. The Football Association is in contact with the police after Lioness Jess Carter has revealed she's experienced racial abuse throughout the Euros. The 27-year-old will be taking a step back from social media to focus on the rest of the tournament. The England team said they won't take the knee before Tuesday's semi-final against Italy, saying it's clear football need to find another way to tackle racism. Teammate Lucy Bronze is calling on social media companies to crack down on the abuse.
I think the social media platforms need to be held accountable more so. We know that millions of people are interacting daily, but there can be more that can be done. People need to be held accountable for their actions, whether it's in person or online. The abuse is not okay, racism is not okay. I think more can be done and more should be done.
The Environment Secretary has called the level of sewage pollution in the UK disgusting and pledged to cut incidents in half by the end of the decade. It's the first time the government has set a clear target on the issue. On Friday, the Environment Agency revealed that serious pollution incidents across England increased by 60% last year compared with 2023. The Independent Water Commission's landmark review into the failing water sector is set to be released tomorrow morning. Steve Reid told GB News the Labour Party will revolutionise the industry.
We banned the payment of unfair multi-million-pound bonuses to water bosses. We brought in £104 billion of private sector investment that started to be spent this April to upgrade and replace those crumbling water pipes and sewage pipes. And tomorrow I will get a report from Sir John Cunliffe that I asked him to compile about how we change the rules that govern the water companies so we can have a water revolution in this country.
Rail services between London and South Essex have become publicly owned for the first time since the 20th century. The government has nationalised the operator C2C, which runs services between Fenchurch Street and Southend. It had been controlled by Italy's state-owned rail company Trenitalia since 2017, but now it's part of Great British Railways. And a D-Day veteran who became a social media star in his later years has died at the age of 102. Papa Jake Larson survived German gunfire in the June 1944 landings and garnered 1.2 million followers, sharing his stories on TikTok. His granddaughter Michaela shared the news of his death, saying he went peacefully and was cracking jokes until the very end. Those are the latest headlines. More for you in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
That's what we like. Welcome everyone to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. We have got a packed show for you this week, including an interview you do not want to miss with a woman who took her local police force to court for celebrating Pride, and she won it. And we'll be talking about the most eye-catching stories of the week during our audience questions, which will be read out by these guys right here in the studio. But first, let's get straight into tonight's debate. The government has finally released its updated guidance on relationship, sex and health education in England, stressing schools must teach the legal facts about biological sex and gender reassignment, but without promoting any one view or suggesting social transitioning as a simple fix. Strict age limits have been dropped, meaning children under the age of 9 could be taught about this. While school leaders welcome the guidelines, some campaigners warn that the guidance weakens protections around teaching sex education and gender identity. So, do you agree with Labour's new guidelines on sex education for under 9s. Joining me now to debate this is personal trainer athlete Clinique Frank and author and women's rights advocate Julia Long. Welcome to the show, both of you. Julia, what do you make of this guidance?
Well, unfortunately, the guidance is very weak. It really, it has got a very important job to do because basically, if you think about the context of this guidance, at least one generation, if not more, have been lied to over a number of years now, over 10, 15 years. Children have been taught that they might be born in their own bodies, that they might have this sort of spurious notion of a gender identity. And there have been activist groups coming into schools teaching them all kinds of totally unscientific and untrue ideas as if these things are facts. So we've done a lot of damage to our children and young people. And what this guidance should be doing is making it very, very clear and unequivocal that the children should be taught the facts about biological sex, and they should not be taught all these other spurious notions, which actually has brought in a whole raft of different forms of abuses, from breast binding, puberty blockers, terrible surgeries, things like that, to men in women's spaces and boys in girls' spaces. So that's what the guidance should be doing, but it totally kind of pulls its punches on that, and it says, oh, no, there shouldn't be one side taught, but one side is factual and true, and the other side is false.
Well, Clinique...
Hi. Sorry that I'm not in the studio, but I couldn't make it.
Clinique, can you explain to us, why do you... I'm assuming that you think children should be taught about gender ideology?
Well, this is a very important subject because this is the modern day now, right now. And I was brought up in South Africa in the 70s, and I knew I was in the wrong body from then. And also, there's a lot of people out there that need to understand, when they become adults, that there are different people in this world. And also the LGBT community, there's also people that are hiding for instance, that they're gay. And now they have to lie just to say that they're not gay. So for transgender and the surgery, which is what she was talking about, we don't have to go into detail, but we need to explain that there's two genders, and then there's another two genders.
Well, there's two sexes.
Transgender male and transgender female. So
people would say there are two sexes, and that is it, though.
Sorry?
People would say there are two sexes, and that's it. Gender is a construct. So why do they need to be taught about that?
If you want to be called a sexual preference, because there's lots of different sexual preferences, I can go through a list. But with gender, I agree, there's biological male and female. But then when you change sex, now you transgender male and transgender female. So there's 4 genders, if you think about it. I've just transgendered into female because I know that psychologically I've had abuse, and what this lady's lovely saying, oh, it's okay for me to be abused like I was in 2023.
Well, it's not about being abused.
Up on Piers Morgan. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, Julia, do you have any particular... Anything you want to say to that?
Well, I don't think anyone is in any doubt about the biological sex of your guest there. And I think that it's everybody knows that anyone with any kind of basic understanding of the fact that we are human beings, we are mammals, it's patently obvious that it's impossible to change sex. And I think we have to look at the motivations of those people who are either claiming to, or who are encouraging this falsehood.
I'm not changing sex, I'm changing gender. And when men take hormones, women hormones, but, for instance, female, and when women change to men, they take testosterone, male hormones, it's a dramatic change. And when I take hormones and I'm on hormone replacement, I'm going to change. But when I have surgery, then this is the whole thing. The children need to understand.
What do you think the purpose of teaching children, Clinique, what do you think the purpose of teaching children under 9 about that, though?
To be mindful and respectful for everybody in this world. We're all human.
Absolutely. No one's saying you can't respect other people.
I train people that have got cerebral palsy and people that have got Parkinson's, and they get mocked. And in the streets, people come up, teenagers laugh, or they giggle. I just explain, and they then become very apologetic because they don't understand that actually I'm transgender. I'm not a cross-dresser. I'm not a drag queen.
Julia wants to say something.
Can I come in? I find it really really, really distasteful and offensive to be bringing people with disabilities into this question. We're not talking about people with disabilities.
But this is the whole thing, racism.
Everybody
I've just seen the news
agrees
now. The
that
poor
that
lady on the
will you let me speak, please?
has been racialised now because
you're rather exposing the lie that you are any sort of woman by behaving with typical male entitlement.
I'm a transgender woman, darling. I'm not a biological woman. I agree with you. I agree with you.
You're not any sort of a woman. And please do not insult women by making that claim.
I'm not insulting women.
But this,
all my ladies that I've trained are behind me because they are lovely ladies like you. I agree with you.
This
okay,
is
and I respect all
the kinds of harmful
and
things.
And let me tell you now that I am transgender woman.
Will you let me speak, please?
You know,
can we please let Julia make her?
Well, in a way, you are doing my job for me because you're really shouting "man" in capital letters right above my head.
I'm so sorry.
So it's exactly this type of harmful practice that has the Trojan horse of all of these activist groups that have come into schools.
Unfortunately, those Trojan horses, I agree with you.
Names,
I agree with you. I don't want you to go to school and do that.
I just want to get back to point.
I don't want that. I want to be nice about it.
I want to speak about the activist
We'll
groups.
get back to that in a second. Sorry, Glenique, I just want you to answer that question, please. Do you think that there are any harms? Do you recognise that there are any harms to teaching, particularly young children, about gender ideology, especially as it's been proven to be a social contagion? Do you see that people's concerns down that route?
I don't see there's any harm because children are like sponges and they want to learn. And when you explain to children from any age, from 6 till 18, do you know what? They understand. And let me tell you now that when you say there's scientific evidence or proof, obviously there's not. This is biological male and biological female. Now I'm just crossing from biological male to transgender female. I'm still obviously born a male. Okay, so I'm just changing my gender because I know that I feel that I'm in the wrong body, and I apologise for that.
No, there's nothing to apologise for. Glenique, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a little chat with Julia, but I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia, let's get back to the debate. Is there harm in teaching a child that, you know, in Glenique's case, he has changed gender, he now identifies as a woman? Do you think that teaching a child, that's going to have any negative ramifications for them?
Of course it will. Of course it will. You know, if we think back, let's just look over the last 10, 15 years how this issue has progressed. It's gone from a very small number of, you know, like at the Tavistock Gender Identity Service, there were, I think,
around, I think about 50
around
diagnoses.
2010, there was around 50 patients or, you know, children under that service, and then within a decade, it was something like 5,000.
Which is evidence of a social contagion.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Just as we've seen other social contagions around self-harm or eating disorders, and these things that that our friend there was so much advocating for are really harmful false notions. You cannot change sex, and of course children are imaginative and, you know, fascinating young people who are fascinated with the world around them. And schools are in a situation of responsibility and safeguarding to those children. And it's an absolute responsibility not to be teaching them falsehoods.
Well, this is it, because the previous legislation from the last government made it very clear that there was to be no teaching of this ideology, I guess recognising the potential dangers of it.
Yeah.
People are saying that they've now basically, this government has watered that down. They're saying that they have to teach that it's to argue both sides of the case, but they are still making the case that people can be born in the...
Well, they've done several things with this new guidance. One of the things is that they've removed the age limits because the previous guidance had specific age limits for what could be taught at what age. And then now I think the kind of basic guidance still stands for that, but it's not mandatory. So schools are allowed some kind of flexibility as to what they teach at which age. But as I was starting to say before, I think unfortunately a lot of schools have proved that they're not very trustworthy in knowing what is age appropriate, because they've brought, from 2020 when SRHE became mandatory for schools to teach. I think a lot of schools were quite scared of it, so they brought activist groups in to basically devolve that responsibility to them. And then what we've seen, you know, almost on a weekly basis, is examples of schools teaching highly inappropriate things.
It's happened at my kids' school, being taught that there's 100 sexes and
all of this,
pansexual,
gender neutral, demi-semi quavers or whatever. Anyway, all of these, like, you know, totally invented things. And I think what has been very pernicious about it is a lot of these activist groups don't necessarily get everything wrong. They do teach about respectful relationships and things like this, but with this rather fluffy exterior and these cutesy names that they're given, they are actually acting as a Trojan horse that brings in all kinds of harmful notions.
I think what's going to happen is from this debate is I'm going to take my kids out of school. So thank you very much to personal trainer and athlete Link Frank, and to author, women's rights advocate, legend, something like that. Next on Free Speech Nation, we have our audience questions, where we run through the most eye-catching stories of the week, including a group of Christians who have been overturned their ban on street preaching. Find out more in just a few moments.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So, my comedian guests this evening are Aideen McQueen and Kerry Marks. Thank you. How are you both? Aideen, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too.
You did a little Irish jig as you came in.
I did indeed. Why not? You know, live up to the stereotypes.
It was wonderful, yeah. And you're drunk.
And mine...
That was a joke. She's not, and that was a...
Yeah, 3 years sober, one day at a time.
I did know that.
My AA sponsor is watching. He's lying. He's joking.
And And what about you, Kerry?
I did a beautiful Irish jig as well, Josh.
Yes.
It just didn't seem like it was.
No, it was like it
yes.
sort of rolled in.
Yes, I rolled in.
So, look, we're going to get some questions from our audience. Our first question is from Katie.
Why are human rights organisations, musicians, journalists and protesters remaining silent when there is a genocide happening in the Middle East?
Yeah, why are human rights organisations, musicians, journalists, etc., protesters remaining silent when there's genocide in the Middle East? So it's not the fake genocide in Gaza. In the last week, horrific videos have emerged from northern Syria of Islamist forces carrying out atrocities upon the local Christian and Druze populations, mirroring the actions of Hamas on October 7th, including reports of women raped and many more women and even a baby kidnapped. It's been estimated that over 1,000 people have been killed so far, and yet there has been near total silence from the media, the UN and human rights organisations. Have you seen any of these videos online?
Yes, and it's really appalling, actually, what we see. And the propaganda, especially against the Jewish nation, I think it's appalling what I've seen on the media. And, you know, with family in Israel and across the world, you know, this is a very important matter to discuss.
Well, it's hypocrisy here, right? Because some of these videos are just like...
They're not fun. They're not fun, Josh.
They are really dramatic to watch.
Horrifying. And
yet silence.
And they're live streaming it. They're filming themselves doing the most horrendous things. And if you've not been following this, basically you had Assad. Assad was like evil as hell. It would be impossible to be as bad as that. So Giuliani, who's taken over, looks good compared. And then we gave him 50 million, thank you very much, British government, pounds straight away without him even doing anything to show he's going to be any good. And then now his troops go in and attack the Druze. The Druze request Israel's help. Israel goes in, and then you hear from the BBC and the rest of the media right now saying that Israel's like starting something where it's just a lot of sectarian violence. It's horror going on there. But that's the view we're seeing, and what you're asking is about the view from artists, from human rights organisations, and to represent their view, what they're saying is, you know, it's their culture. They can't help themselves.
I don't know if I agree with that. I haven't seen any...
No, I'm saying that's the way that people are seeing it. They're going, it's, you know, it's so condescending.
I just haven't heard anything from any of these people. For me, it's the hypocrisy of the silence. Yesterday in London, thousands of people out marching against a supposed genocide in Gaza, yet when there's an actual proven genocide with video footage, they're utterly silent.
Well, you can only have one flag on your Facebook profile at a time.
Is that what it is?
That's the problem. We can only hold one.
It's all Facebook's fault. All right, then.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Anton.
Can you find Jesus in Uxbridge?
Can you find Jesus in Uxbridge? I hope so. A church in West London successfully challenged and overturned a council ban that restricted street preaching and distributing religious leaflets, defending their right to public religious expression. This is obviously a positive step for free speech. Do you have any issues with people preaching in public?
I don't particularly enjoy it at all, but I think they're allowed to, of course. I mean, if you're allowed to have a banner with a woman with a really low-cut top on selling a bra, if you're allowed to have a charity mugger coming up to you, if you're allowed to have those people that try to sell you perfume, surely this should be allowed as well. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think anybody here has ever been converted to any church because somebody shouted John 3:7 at them. But at the same time, why should it be illegal?
Yeah, I mean, this is the local council using these laws that came in, legislation to deal with public nuisance and drug addicts.
I'm with the council. I'm actually with the council here because and I'm not against the proselytisation and so on, say your thing, but what they actually banned was loudspeakers. They banned it being... You can still tell people they're an abomination while they're shopping, but you're not allowed to shout it at them, that's all. I walked through Birmingham last week on a Saturday and there was Saturday shopping and there's everywhere I'm going, there's people shouting at me that I'm evil and I'm going to hell, and these people haven't even seen my comedy set.
I'm really sorry about that.
I was told I was going to go to hell and burn forever, and I was going into Nando's. and also, it starts to sound good. You're going to go to hell and burn forever. And with the price of fuel right now, it doesn't sound like a bad option, really. And as long as these people aren't going to be there, it's going to be more like heaven for me. But I saw one guy who was stood outside the bank, and he had a sign saying, Jesus saves. And I thought the bank manager listed off a chance. He could have sent someone next to him with a sign saying, with us. You know, and it wasn't really good for it, but, you know...
Very nice. Yes, so that's that. So as long as people don't use a microphone to tell you they're hell, it's fine.
I've never seen any of those street preachers and thought I want to join that religion. Like, they're never the most attractive members of society, are they? They need to put models out. Or...
No, we had a street preacher on a few months ago, and he was particularly handsome, it must be said.
Well...
It made me sort of consider.
Ooh, Josh.
Our next question is from Ian.
Do white poets need to be black?
Yeah, do white poets need to be black? This is a white Canadian writer used fake minority identities to publish 47 deliberately bad poems, claiming it was a stunt to expose biases in the poetry world. Are you a fan of poetry?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Are you a fan of this person's fake work?
I don't know it.
It's pretty terrible. Aideen, did you see any of the examples?
I did, and I have to say I thought it was really good. No, I have very low standards. But I thought it was just as good as any of the rubbish poetry you see anywhere. I would have published it for sure, no matter who wrote it. I can't quote any of it, it's so outrageously rude. But Google it, guys, afterwards, you'll enjoy it.
Do have a look, it's funny.
Yeah.
Did he prove his point, do you think?
Yes, and the thing is, the industry isn't even ashamed of it, and they should be. Really, I think they're the ones who are making fun of people for their identities. They're saying that if you're a black lesbian, you can't write good poetry. The poetry's horrifying, really bad. I wouldn't put it on the fridge if a 5-year-old wrote it. It's that bad. But it also reminds me of and they've got no shame. They don't say we've been caught out here. Do you remember the grievance studies hoax? Where James Lindsay and Helen Pluckrose and so on, and they wrote these hoax papers that got published in all the science magazines at the time, using the kind of lingo that people use. And it was stuff like about rape culture in dogs in parks, and how we can cure toxic masculinity by making men wear leads when they're taken out. And that all got published. And they didn't afterwards say, oh, right, well, we've been found out, which they obviously had been.
Again,
You're telling me that's fake? My wife's been doing that for the last 2 years. It's terrible.
That was for different reasons.
OK, fine. I find we're teaching it in primary schools. Final question for the moment is from Gavan.
Yeah, good evening. And my question that I'm going to present to you, I'm waiting for a great answer I'm going to get from the panel here, is was Carmen a Palestinian?
Yes, was Carmen, this is the opera, was Carmen Palestinian? Yes, because a freelance dancer staged a pro-Palestine protest during an opera curtain call at the Royal Opera House, prompting backlash over political activism in publicly funded venues. There they are there, not very happy. His flag was turned away. So I don't know if more information has come out about this person, Kerry.
Oh, really?
And he identifies as queer. And he is basically... He comes from a very posh background. His school was like £48,000. I believe we've got a picture of him as well. There he is. This is him going to Cabaret, which is a film about the rise of Nazism, and he's wearing his Free Palestine T-shirt there. I think... yes, this is... worst of all, he's a DJ.
Yeah. None of that information at all is surprising. I haven't seen an opera for ages, and some years ago, I outside an opera, I ran over a fat woman wearing a Viking helmet. I think the opera's still going on. And this guy, he's there like a horned reindeer holding up his flag like he thinks he's Che Guevara. The sad part is the real part of this is that the people in that play, they worked for months. There's blood, sweat and tears to produce a play. All the background people and the lighting and everyone did their stuff. Then he went on, and he went on during the applause to make it look like he's getting an applause. And I think he's an absolute plonker. I hope he's fired and never gets another job in the industry.
It's a great point. He's absolutely stealing the limelight from these other people who deserved it.
No, I think I disagree. I think... Has anyone seen Il Trovatore here? Exactly. It's the most boring opera ever. Right?
You think it needs more Palestinian flags?
How does it go, Aideen?
OK, so the whole thing is like they're making it up, like, look at Josh, look at Kerry, la 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 la, and then there's one good song, la 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 la. Yeah, exactly. That's the one that gets on Pizza ads.
Free Palestine.
What has this got to do with with the Palestinian
So what it
flag.
has to do is, it's the best thing that ever happened. Those people were bored out of their mind. Then some weird guy comes on stage. They will be talking about this for years. What did you do in the Opera House? 10 out of 10.
Fair enough. OK, yeah. Right, well, a spokeswoman for the venue in Covent Garden said the display of the flag was a spontaneous and unauthorised action by the artist. It was not approved by the Royal Ballet and Opera, and it is not in line with our commitment to political impartiality. So, next on Free Speech Nation, a legal showdown looms at Hampstead Heath as campaign group Sex Matters challenges trans women swimming in the ladies' pond. I'll give you more details on that shortly. Don't go anywhere.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across Europe over the next couple of days, with plenty of showers around across parts of France, even northern parts of Italy too. Maybe even Madeira and the Canary Islands catching 1 or 2 isolated showers. But for parts of Spain, Portugal, Italy, even parts of Greece, there's plenty of sunshine on offer. And the southern Mediterranean seeing plenty of that sunshine, though perhaps a little breezy. Temperatures generally in the low to mid 30s and similar through the outlook as well. Plenty of sunshine on the cards and feeling very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. After an unsettled and showery weekend, not a lot will change as we go into Monday, so further heavy downpours and some persistent spells of rain, courtesy of this area of low pressure that's not really moving anywhere over the next day or two, so it's going to maintain that unsettled flavour to the weather with some showers or longer spells of rain. For Sunday evening, the heaviest rain and most persistent rain will be across southern parts of Scotland, moving into Northern Ireland through the early hours as well. So it's here where we're most concerned about some flooding. There are warnings in place, so do check our website or app for further details on those. Heavy showers across the southeast of England as well later in the night, but not a cold night. Temperatures, generally speaking, holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. So for Monday, it's going to be an unsettled start to the new working week, particularly across the southeast of England, where there'll be some pretty heavy downpours moving in from the south, so some thunderstorms already perhaps possible here. Sunny and dry conditions across parts of the Midlands, eastern parts of Wales, but further north and west, we run into that heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland, western and southwestern Scotland, with some rain also across the far northeast of Scotland too. So not many places escaping with much in the way of dry weather first thing, and it's going to stay pretty changeable and unsettled through the course of Monday as well. That rain lingers across parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England for much of the day. Further east, it's a mixture of sunny spells and sudden heavy downpours, some thundery downpours too, some hail and gusty winds, but nonetheless in between the showers, in the sunshine, it should feel quite warm with temperatures in the mid-20s. For Tuesday, we're not expecting it to be quite as unsettled. Having said that, it will be fairly cloudy. There will be some showers around in places and perhaps some longer spells of rain across western parts of Scotland and northwest England. But despite that, it should still feel fairly warm in any brightness. A changeable picture, though, as we go through the rest of the week. A lot of cloud around in general, but in any sunshine, it will still feel pretty warm.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Now, a legal showdown looms at Hampstead Heath as campaign group Sex Matters challenges trans women swimming in the ladies' pond. Since 2019, trans women, born male, have been allowed in, but critics say this breaks the law after a Supreme Court ruling on single-sex spaces. The City of London says the pond isn't single-sex because trans swimmers are welcome. Some women say they feel uncomfortable, and now a legal challenge is in the cards that could end up in the High Court. I am joined by women's rights campaign, a bit of a legend as well, Venice Allen. Welcome, Venice. So lovely to have you here on the show. Now, you've been fighting the gender-critical position for many years, but the heath and the ponds are something particularly close to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the ponds are such a great example of this single-sex space issue. They're historic, they're iconic, they're beautiful. They kind of go beyond what we normally think of as a single-sex space, like a toilet or a changing room, because, you know, the great thing is about the women's pond is just there's no men there, there's no splashing, there's no men looking at your body. So it's kind of like the most important and wonderful women's space I've ever been to. And I think in terms of this issue, it's so obvious why men want to come into women's spaces, because there are three ponds. There's the women's pond, the men's pond and the mixed pond, where anyone can go, but they don't want to go there, do they?
So you think that coming to the women's pond is about affirming their identity?
I think it's looking at naked ladies. I don't know about affirming their identity. I think it's voyeurism and what do they call it? Exposure. I can't remember what they call that. Flashing. Yes.
Flashing. OK, there we go. So what's happened now is that the City of London, they're the ones who run the ponds, right?
Yeah.
Now, it would seem like after the Supreme Court ruling that this would be very clear. This is the ladies' pond. It's for the ladies.
It's for women and girls over the age of 8, yeah.
If we're allowed to use ladies back in our vernacular. Why is this so hard for them to understand? How are they getting around this?
Well, they're trying to say that it's not actually a single-sex space, it's a single-gender space. Actually, when I heard the Supreme Court ruling, I thought maybe that would be possible, but actually I've been told since, no, it's not possible. If it says it's women only, it has to be women only. So I think it's interesting, this court case.
A protest, right? Dressing up, going to the men's pond.
This was us in May.
So how did you sort of pretend to be a man? You did a lot of splashing, you just stared at
You really don't have to do anything, Josh, to pretend.
Oh,
you just have to say you're a man.
And that's it, and then you get straight into the...
That's it. So there is no test for being trans, is there?
So, I mean, actually, there's a much wider implication here, because, of course, if any person who controls a single-sex space then identifies it as a single-gender space, then, of course, they can just
But they can't
ignore.
do this.
So they can't.
They're going to lose this. I mean, I'll be surprised if it actually gets to court. But, you know, they're saying that they're going to take it to court. Well, so I think it'll be really important because we'll all see exactly, no, providers can't do this. So bring it on.
Have you seen any other... Have you seen any other examples of institutions trying to use this legal loophole?
I haven't.
Pretend.
I mean, I've seen that there's like queer pubs in Hackney saying that they're going to keep their ladies' toilets. But you know, the thing is, if you want to have an inclusive space, you just make it gender neutral, unisex. That's fine. Yeah. That's not against the law. But it's when you say it's a women's space, it really has to be a women's space.
Yeah. I mean, do we know why they're so ideologically driven and so resistant to it?
I think we do know. There's some characters at the City of London as a guy called Edward Lord, who's been very active pushing this policy for years. He describes himself as non-binary. His wife also describes herself as non-binary. So they're pretty invested into this. And so I think that's probably why. I don't know if there are other people at the City of London who support him or not.
I see. I believe there was like a survey done that where people actually voted to maintain it as a trans-inclusive space. Is that right?
No. Well, there's the pond which is run by the City of London, but there's also a membership organisation called the Kenwood Ladies Pond Association, and their members voted to keep it trans-inclusive.
I see. But the law is the law.
Also, they're just a membership organisation. They brought loads of women into the organisation and a few men, I think, to vote against our motion to make it single-sex again. But that was before the Supreme Court ruling.
So what's happening? Who is funding this? Is this Sex Matters are using their fund?
Sex Matters have got a crowdfunder, so if this is important to you, please do donate. They've got a target of 50,000. They've already reached 42,000. I just checked it just before I came on here. So, yeah, they seem to have it really down. I think it's quite a clear-cut case, so I think it's really worth doing, because if they find out that, you know, the most ideological service provider that we know of, if they lose, then I think all the others have to follow.
And I mean, how do you feel that it has to go to court, something like this? Because this is what we've seen all along, though, isn't it?
It's absurd that it has to go to court, because the Supreme Court ruling was crystal clear. I don't understand why we know why, but they haven't got a chance with this because the law is clear.
And do you still use the ponds yourself? No. No, I
boycott the ladies' pond because, for me, they're just providing a set for these men. You know, so I don't mind swimming around men, but I don't want it to be a pretend women's space. So if I do go to the ponds, I'll go to the mixed pond.
Yeah, and is there any reason to prevent trans women from going, or trans men, or anybody really going to the
Of course there isn't. I mean, Hampstead Heath probably is the most kind of liberal place in the whole planet, right? So it's not like, you know, they're going to feel, you know, unsafe at the Hampstead Mixed Pond. It's a brilliant environment for everyone, and they're welcome there. I've never seen any trans there, but I have at the ladies' pond.
OK, well, look, in the meantime, I will join you in the mixed pond, and I will do lots of splashing, like men do. That's what we do. We love to splash. Thank you very much. Women's rights campaigner legend, Venice Allen. So, coming up, we have a trial by jury. One of our country's most ancient freedoms is at threat as the government attempts to clear the court backlog. I'll be joined by a lawyer who says this crucial legal right is not to be removed. Don't go anywhere. See you in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, a growing court backlog in England and Wales with nearly 77,000 pending Crown Court cases is delaying justice for both victims and the accused. The Leveson Review proposes major reforms to reduce the Crown Court backlog, including limiting the right to jury trials in certain cases, a move critics say threatens ancient fundamental legal freedoms. Justice Secretary Shabina Mahmood welcomed the bold proposal, saying that swifter justice requires bold reform, and that this is what she asked Sir Brian Leveson to propose. Joining me now is the lawyer Dennis Noel Kavanagh. Welcome to the show. Thank you. We know the reasons why there's a backlog, but this threatens all of our right. This goes back to the Magna Carta, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first point to make, Josh, is of that 77,000 case backlog, only 2,000 of them, or round about that figure, would come under this particular proposal. So when you see headlines, I've seen some recently on the BBC saying this will remove court backlog, it won't. That's less than 3% of the cases. The reality, I have to say, is that there's always been a strain of quite snobbish elite opinion around Westminster that's always been spiritually hostile to jury trials. They tried to get rid of them in these sorts of cases in 2003. They tried again in 2007, but the House of Lords sent it back, as they should here. So we have to ask, when we're looking at these proposals, are the government playing with a fair bat? Because the suggestion that it's going to go anywhere near the 77,000 figure is nonsense. It's only 2,000 cases.
So you think this might be more of an excuse then?
Yeah, I think there's been an appetite for this sort of thing. I'm afraid to say there is a strain of elite opinion, cross-party, which simply looks right down its nose at the judgment of ordinary people. We've seen that in sort of Brexit-type debates, but there's certainly been people who, on no evidence whatsoever, seem to take the attitude that juries are stupid. There's no evidence for that at all, Josh. The research that we've done into that in this country, courtesy of Professor Cheryl Thomas at University College London, tells us, when speaking to jurors from the Jubilee Line trial and other famous trials, they had a fantastic grasp of the issues. She found 81% of jurors would be happy to serve again. No trial's ever been stopped, no appeal ever upheld, because someone proved a jury didn't understand things. So for the government to go out and try to sell this to the public on the basis of desperate times call for desperate measures, these jurors are too stupid to get this. There's no evidence for that at all.
And there is evidence, of course, that the British public have common sense.
Exactly.
Which is different, which would be something that would then go, where we saw something like, is it Jamie Michael? He put up a Facebook post talking about just legal, unviolent protests outside migrant hotels, and he was taken to court. He had a jury trial. They found, I think, 17 minutes, they found him innocent.
Yeah.
Now, if he hadn't had a jury trial, evidence would suggest that he maybe is spending a couple of years in prison.
Well, that could be right. I mean, I've been in these sorts of trials in a former life, and I can tell you, even something that looks like a complex fraud normally comes down to a very simple question. Normally, the question the jury has to ask is, was this person dishonest? And you've got to remember, modern juries deal with really complex stuff. They deal with cryptocurrency scams. They deal with bribery. They deal with, international conspiracies. None of that is mentioned in the Leveson reports to the government. And in fact, the Leveson report only mentions cases from about 20, 30 years ago. You're absolutely right. Juries do have common sense. And part of the skill of criminal barristers, solicitors and judges is to reduce questions down to a simple question of common sense. I'd also make the point, Josh, and this is an unexpected result of this, where they've tried this, acquittals have gone up, right, where you have judge-alone trials. Nottingham University did research on this, and in the Australian Capital Territory, the acquittals got so bad, I think it was 0% for murders for a while, was the 0% conviction rate, that the Attorney General intervened to say, what on earth is going on here?
We've seen activist judges doing some what the common sense would say are pretty outrageous decisions. So do you think that that's part of the problem?
I think this is a slightly different question. I think the thing is this. When a jury comes into a court, they simply ask, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty? That's it. They don't have to sit there. They don't have to explain themselves. We trust them to have followed the judge's judgments. The experience from Australia, both the Australian Capital Territory and New South Wales, is that when a judge has to laboriously explain each and every finding of fact, sometimes in a complex case, I mean, you think of complex cases like, I don't know, Lucy Letby or the mushroom poisoner in Australia, those judgments could run to hundreds of pages. And given the criminal standard is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, you can see, can't you, it's quite easy to some extent to turn up one reasonable doubt somewhere. In New South Wales, the acquittal rate for judge alone is 12% higher than it is if you've got a jury. Now, if we translate that over here, and I know the government have done no research on this whatsoever, it's a complete shot in the dark, all this, what will we end up with? We could have white-collar criminals, we have a proper two-tier justice system where they get a judge-only trial, they've got a 12% or better chance of acquittal. And when we look at the type of trials that we're talking about, well, what kind of defendants know how to play the numbers? Fraudsters. This is potentially a recipe for disaster, and for a government that is normally sensitive about accusations of two-tier justice, it is amazing to me that they seem poised to enact precisely that.
So is this meant to be a temporary measure? Or could this then be permanent? Is that the idea?
There's no suggestion at all in either the Leveson report or the government's communications that they want this to be a temporary measure. And I think two factors support that analysis. First, generally, any time we've lost a right in criminal justice, it's been lost forever. There's no unqualified right to silence. There's no right not to give evidence and then prevent the prosecution adversely commenting on that. So, you know, say you're guilty because you didn't give evidence. In addition to which, as I say, there's been this appetite at Westminster for years now across parties to get rid of jury trials in complex cases. There's been this sneering looking down on people and this wholly unjustified, unevidenced, popular suggestion amongst elites of, oh, well, you know, these common people, these great unwashed, they simply don't understand the case. That's not true. All of our evidence says the opposite. And I can tell you, having been in these trials, I've never received a note from a jury, because juries send notes asking questions about the evidence on that indicates they're doing anything other than keeping up with the evidence.
So what is the government doing to actually cut these wait times? Because from my understanding is there are steps that they could be taking, like bringing back retired judges, like they closed for 2 months over the summer, so staying open. So why aren't they taking those steps if they're really serious about getting these numbers down?
Well, we've got a government, haven't we, that's in a bit of a financial fix. Because, as you say, bringing in retired judges or part-time judges, increasing what's called the sitting days, so the Ministry of Justice allocates a certain number of days a court can sit. The government could do that, and it would greatly help with the backlog, but it would require investment, Josh.
Is there a financial element to the jury trials, like to cutting it, and would that save a lot of money, not having jury trials?
So it is said. It said it might shave some stuff off jury, it shaves some funding off, but when we look at it, one, let's consider there's only 2,000 cases. Two, well, if the reduction is only, say, I don't know, a 20%, is that the end of the story, given that each case with, instead of a guilty, not guilty, but a whole judgment, each case, I bet my bottom dollar would have a costly appeal attached to it, because you'd rake through that judgment as a lawyer and find something or other.
Actually, I don't even know why I asked that question, because as I was asking, I remembered that I think it's £31 million, which is like 0.2% of the justice budget. So we are talking about a small amount of money here, considering this is one of the most sacred rights and maybe one of the greatest things that the UK offered to the world.
Yeah. When previous government was going to introduce a Bill of Rights, I don't know if you remember that, back in sort of 2012 or something, they surveyed the public to say, what are your most cherished rights? And the right to trial by jury was estimated by the public, I think, to be in the top two, the top three. This is a sacred right. It's an important right. If we lose this right, we're never going to get it back, because bringing back jury trials for fraudsters is never going to be a political sales pitch. If we let them get a foot in the door on this and don't stand up for jury trials, I also fear, because of the way the recommendations are worded, it's not going to stop at fraud trials. It's going to extend. The minute you say to the public, some things are beyond your understanding and you've got to leave them to us, the elites, the white-collar guys.
And, of course, people ask, we might think, oh, well, it's not going to affect us, but you just don't know how the university is going to work and when you might actually want a jury trial. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Lawyer Dennis Noel Kavanagh. That's the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. There's a lot more to come for you now at 9 o'clock, including big news today that Labour's Islamophobia law could hand reform a 100-seat majority, and an interview you do not want to miss with the woman who took her local police force to court for celebrating Pride, and she won. See you in a couple of minutes. Bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. After an unsettled and showery weekend, not a lot will change as we go into Monday, so further heavy downpours and some persistent spells of rain, courtesy of this area of low pressure that's not really moving anywhere over the next day or two, so it's going to maintain that unsettled flavour to the weather with some showers or longer spells of rain. For Sunday evening, the heaviest rain and most persistent rain will be across southern parts of Scotland, moving into Northern Ireland through the early hours as well. So it's here where we're most concerned about some flooding. There are warnings in place, so do check our website or app for further details on those. Heavy showers across the southeast of England as well later in the night, but not a cold night. Temperatures, generally speaking, holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. So for Monday, it's going to be an unsettled start to the new working week, particularly across the southeast of England, where there'll be some pretty heavy downpours moving in from the south, so some thunderstorms already perhaps possible here. Sunny and dry conditions across parts of the Midlands, eastern parts of Wales, but further north and west, we run into that heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland, western and southwestern Scotland, with some rain also across the far northeast of Scotland too. So not many places escaping with much in the way of dry weather first thing, and it's going to stay pretty changeable and unsettled through the course of Monday as well. That rain lingers across parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England for much of the day. Further east, it's a mixture of sunny spells and sudden heavy downpours, some thundery downpours too, some hail and gusty winds, but nonetheless in between the showers, in the sunshine, it should feel quite warm with temperatures in the mid-20s. For Tuesday, we're not expecting it to be quite as unsettled. Having said that, it will be fairly cloudy. There will be some showers around in places and perhaps some longer spells of rain across western parts of Scotland and northwest England. But despite that, it should still feel fairly warm in any brightness. A changeable picture, though, as we go through the rest of the week. A lot of cloud around in general, but in any sunshine, it will still feel pretty warm.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We have got plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, including the woman who took her local police force to court and won. But first, a news update from Bethany Elsie.
Good evening. The latest headlines from the GB newsroom. At least 67 Palestinians have been killed and dozens more injured by Israeli fire as they waited for UN aid trucks in northern Gaza. Authorities say it's one of the highest reported number of deaths among repeated recent cases where Israeli troops target aid seekers, including 36 people that were killed yesterday. Israeli military claimed troops fired warning shots towards a crowd of thousands to remove what it called an immediate threat. But the UN said 25 trucks carrying food aid were approaching massive crowds of hungry civilians when they came under fire. It comes as Israel issued new evacuation orders for areas in Gaza packed with displaced people. The Football Association is in contact with the police after Lioness Jess Carter has revealed she's experienced racial abuse throughout the Euros. The 27-year-old will be taking a step back from social media to focus on the rest of the tournament. The England team said they won't take the knee before Tuesday's semi-final against Italy, saying it's clear football need to find another way to tackle racism. Teammate Lucy Bronze is calling on social media companies to crack down on the abuse. The Environment Secretary has called the level of sewage pollution in the UK disgusting and pledged to cut incidents in half by the end of the decade. It's the first time the government has set a clear target on the issue. On Friday, the Environment Agency revealed that serious pollution incidents across England increased by 60% last year compared with 2023. The Independent Water Commission's landmark review into the failing water sector is set to be released tomorrow morning. Steve Reed told GB News the Labour Party will revolutionise the industry.
We banned the payment of unfair multi-million-pound bonuses to water bosses. We brought in £104 billion of private sector investment that started to be spent this April to upgrade and replace those crumbling water pipes and sewage pipes. And tomorrow I will get a report from Sir John Cunliffe that I asked him to compile about how we change the rules that govern the water companies so we can have a water revolution in this country.
Rail services between London and South Essex have become publicly owned for the first time since the 20th century. The government has nationalised the operator C2C, which runs services between Fenchurch Street and Southend. It had been controlled by Italy's state-owned rail company Trenitalia since 2017, but now it's part of Great British Railways. And a D-Day veteran who became a social media star in his later years has died at the age of 102. Papa Jake Larson survived German gunfire in the June 1944 landings and garnered 1.2 million followers, sharing his stories on TikTok. His granddaughter Michaela shared the news of his death, saying he went peacefully and was cracking jokes until the very end. Those are the latest headlines. More for you in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howe. We have got loads more to come in the next hour, but we're going to go straight to some questions from our audience. Our first question is from Jan.
Is Elliot Page a great male role model for young men?
Yes, Elliot Page, great male role model. So, a primary school in London has started a project aimed at providing boys with positive role models by showcasing prominent men they can look up to as examples of success. The first individual chosen for this initiative was Elliot Page. Are you familiar with Elliot Page?
Is that the person that used to be Ellen Page?
That is indeed, yes, from various films. Juno, great actress, now I guess
lesbian, I believe.
A lesbian, and now identifies as he and they. What do you think about Elliot being shown as an example of masculinity?
Not much. I think... I think, actually, women can be great role models for young men. I hope I've been a good role model for my son, since I was the person that spent the most time with him. But I don't see any problem with finding a whole host of good male role models
Absolutely.
for young men.
We've got Gavan right here.
I don't know him well enough to comment.
Gavan, you've been sitting next to her for an hour. You haven't had any chance. So what about you, Kerry?
I thought that was a great point, by the way.
Yeah,
Women can be great role models for boys, absolutely. First of all, I'm a little bit biased because Elliot Page is acting... It might be the scripts that he, she says, it, whatever it gets. But I just feel like it always turns out to be like the writing equivalent of a emotional traffic stop. You know, we have the script rushing along, hurtling along with so much action, and suddenly it goes to Elliot Page staring at a window, and next we're talking about feelings. And I've never really been into this thing, but I think having Elliot Page...
I think you need a role model.
I can manage well with... I want the action. Elliot Page...
His role model's Andrew Tate.
Elliot Page... I think it's like having a vegan having in charge of a steak restaurant, because this is someone who hasn't been through puberty, hasn't experienced being a boy, hasn't experienced his first awkward erection whilst the teacher's telling him to come out and read something in front of the class. You know, he hasn't experienced any of these things. So his voice cracking halfway through a poem.
Story there.
Yeah. Are you okay?
I said first.
I like that you look straight at me. I must be giving real teacher energy tonight.
I mean, you remind me of a teacher.
I mean, Elliot Page may identify as a man, but is not a male. As far as I know, they don't splash in the pool.
Yeah.
Like real men do. Call back to the long-term viewers.
Well, it's a bit silly, really, because he hasn't been a man for very long, so. It wouldn't, it would be like saying, you know, Rosie O'Donnell's just moved to Ireland and then she becomes Irish Woman of the Year just because she lives there, or Darby O'Gill becomes Irish Person of the Year. Doesn't make any sense.
No, but that's, of course, what started this movement, when you had a businessman saying he identified as 2 days a week as a woman, and then he won Businesswoman of the Year.
Oh, no.
This is in Scotland a few years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, Elliot has been a big role model for me. As you can tell, I'm unhappy a lot. So our next question. No, that's the other thing. Is she just doesn't seem very happy as a man.
No,
that's what I mean.
that's true. She doesn't seem very happy.
No.
Is there really such a thing as toxic masculinity, though?
Is there such a
No,
thing?
I don't think so. I think there's just some bad men.
Yes, of course.
And then the rest of them are great.
And Kerry.
And me.
All right, our next question's from Sharina.
Is Jew hate going to be offered as a GCSE?
Yeah, is Jew hate going to be offered as a GCSE? I know a few people who'll get an A+. 9. So, legal reasons, I keep my mouth shut. So, anti-Semitism is widespread in UK schools, with over half of Jewish teachers reporting abuse, including swastika graffiti and offensive chants like Free Palestine and F the Jews, according to an NASUWT survey reflecting a broader trend identified in the government-backed report that has found anti-Semitism becoming normalised in middle-class Britain. This is not good.
No.
No. I mean, I think it's a scary time for Jewish students, but to hear from Jewish teachers, over 50% receiving abuse, this is not where our country should be going. I think you agree with that, yeah.
No.
Well, actually, let's go to you. You're a teacher. We'll go to the Jew in a second.
Teacher.
But yes, you're a teacher. I don't know if you saw this, but the head of the union, the acting head of the union, said that this was because of far right.
It's not. I don't think it's because of the far right. You're right. There is anti-Semitism has become much more socially acceptable, and it shouldn't be like that. I mean, all teachers get nicknames. I had a nickname when I was a teacher.
What?
Miss Barbie. So I was like, I'll take that.
At least you weren't called Miss Elliot Page.
I know, accurate. But I think it was more to do with my vacuousness than my looks. So it isn't right. And then one of the things that was said is that you can say that Jews are rich. Which is really, really, really... I don't think Jewish teachers are rich and never will be rich unless they start their own golden school, which is not going to happen. So, yeah, it is something to be watched. It is a socially acceptable form of racism. I'm against all racism, and that seems to slide into conversation.
Why did you do that as you were doing that?
I saw it too.
That's classic Miss Barbie.
Wow, you can't touch your nose anymore.
Can't even do a Hitler impression anymore.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
I'm very uncomfortable after that.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
Have you been triggered?
I think it's... Look, this is a problem going on the far right, but it's also the hard left. And what's going on in schools is really the problem is the left. That's where the stronghold is. Being a teacher is... I know from teachers that it's a hard enough job without being expected to free Palestine while you're doing it. And having that shouted at you is such a strange thing. Most of them just want a free period to have a rest for a while. But this is coming from kids who... This is really a statement of our education system, that the kids now, they know about one conflict going on in the world, and most of them think the Kurds are some kind of yogurt, and it's an absolute cluelessness. If they really believed... First of all, this is a bad way to go, because soon we're doing everyone with her. Here's your new Muslim teacher, if you can forgive her for the Ottoman Empire. And we're going to judge everyone by their identity. It's a horrible thing that's happening right now. But on top of it, the kids don't really believe she has any responsibility or anything she can do about a genocide, because if they did, they'd be behaving really well. You know what I mean? They'd be terrified. I've done my homework, miss. Please don't blow the school up. But
Interesting.
so it's not.
OK, well, our next question's from Joe.
Hi. Do you think that NHS equality chiefs should know whether they are a man or a woman?
Yes. Do you think equality chiefs, certainly ones who work for the NHS, should know whether they're a man or a woman? This is during Sandy Peggy's employment tribunal. NHS Fife's Equality and Human Rights lead claimed she didn't know whether she was a man or a woman and said she wouldn't be able to tell Dr Beth Upton's sex either. She admitted no women were consulted before allowing a biologically male medic access to female facilities, and stated she would accept someone as trans based solely on their word, regardless of appearance or presentation. Now, I'm assuming that you've seen this case being played out over the last months. Did you see what happened this week? Because it's sort of escalated to a new level.
Yes, it's a bit of a farce, really, isn't it? The fact that I think J.K. Rowling tweeted about how she doesn't know whether she's a woman, but she knows exactly who a man is when a man says he's a woman, you know. If a man says he's a woman, then irony, you know, it's crazy. So yeah, it's just I think it's just a farce. Hopefully it will end soon.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, I want to talk about this case more. This is one of the big cases that's been going on. There was some legal snafus on Friday. It's gotten actually quite complicated. We are going to be covering it properly when it hopefully resolves during the next week. But in the meantime, when you've got someone who works in the NHS who doesn't know whether they're a woman...
Yeah, that's like the minimum level of what the NHS should know.
Do you think she should ask her kids?
She said she can't know without seeing her chromosomes. This is like the opposite of Sherlock Holmes. This is someone who wouldn't be able to solve a staircase. This is someone who said, I don't know whether I'm on a football pitch, I can't tell what the grass is made of. This is an insanity that this woman... Men get criticised for not being able to find the clitoris. She can't even find a vagina. She doesn't know she's got breasts. She's going to be in for a big surprise when she starts feeling around. I didn't work out how to get into this.
I would love. I mean, I've been following the court case just on on X on the post, but it would be quite good if she'd sort of given herself a physical examination.
And she went, "Oh, I'm a woman."
There it is, finally. Now, don't touch your face, please, while I ask you this question here. Would you trust someone in the NHS if they didn't know whether they're a man or a woman?
I've just felt it. I'm a woman. one too. I think she's going way over the top with this. You know, it goes, is she a man, is she a woman? She thinks she's a man, we can't tell. It sounds like I am a man, I'm a woman. It just sounds like the story of El Trovatore, the opera. It's all of this playing roles and stuff. It just gets so much attention, all of this stuff. Like, trans people is 0.4% of the population. And, like, I don't know if anyone's worked with people with disabilities or has a disability, but, like, the facilities for disabled people is still terrible in this country. If you try to go around on the tube or anything like that, like, there's no access everywhere. And that's just completely ignored. And disabled people, they don't have that much of a voice. And then trans people have such a huge, massive voice that it's constantly being aired. And they put
quite a booming, low baritone.
No, a lovely feminine voice. But if they gave as much attention to disabled rights as they are to trans rights at the moment, we'd be doing much better, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure. This doctor should be able to dress or undress in absolute safety, of course. But when you have two sets of rights and you have a nurse here who's not able, who doesn't feel safe when they're undressing, of course, it's ridiculous that they've gone down this path of just purely protecting this one person's rights. If anybody is on X, I would highly recommend following the case online. And a big shout out to Naomi Cunningham, who is the barrister. She's absolutely hilarious. Very, very funny. Right, our final question is from Mike.
Hi, Josh. How much should you be fined for using the F word?
How much should you be fined for saying the F word? Don't do it. Thanet District Council is reviving plans to fine people for swearing in public months after dropping the idea due to a legal challenge. The original proposal was scrapped last August following pressure from the Free Speech Union, but new documents reveal the council now hopes to reintroduce a scheme to address anti-social behaviour. Do you think people should be fined for swearing in public?
No. Okay. I think it's horses for courses. F word in some groups of people is almost every other word, and it just happens in certain.
You don't think they can control themselves?
It's just part of the language. In other groups, it is unacceptable.
Okay, fine. Well, no. Thank you, Mike. You effing no. What do you think about this?
You save that for Elon Musk here.
Yeah. Is this another council over?
There's cameras behind you.
Oh my God!
There's reflections everywhere. It's going to be reflected in the back of my head.
That's why he polishes his eye.
Yeah,
exactly. What do you think? Is this council overreaching again?
There's behaviour that's nasty, and we've already got laws about that. We don't need to police every word that's said and lose all kind of context. So, no. Thank you. Apart from that, I go to Margate to swear. I thought that's what you do there. I thought it was the language people use. What were you supposed to say when a seagull takes your battered sausages? You're left with nothing. It's not going to take the swearing out of Margate. It's not going to make it classy. That's what I'm saying. If that's what they're going for, it's still going to be a place of seaweed syringes and JD Weatherspoons. So take all the swearing out, you're left with the same thing.
OK, fair enough. I mean, the police technically should be able to deal with stuff. The idea is this is going to be given it to council officials to be able to
I completely agree. You don't need less laws, not more. I mean, I've been arrested for D&D 3 times. That's not Dungeons and Dragons for the nerds. That's drunk and disorderly. So it comes under the drunk and disorderly.
Yes, so that should be fine.
So that's fine, yeah.
Do you want to tell us what you were... No. OK, so... you're doing your Hitler impressions again, all right? OK, next on Free Speech Nation, Angela Rayner's push for an official definition of Islamophobia could see Labour lose 1 million votes and hand reform a 100-seat majority. Amid concerns, it could shut down discussion on issues like grooming gangs. Will they ever learn? We'll find out in 2 minutes. See you in a second.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Front page of the Times today says exercise proves the best therapy for keeping cancer at bay. Let's get the views of Tim Vincent.
It's quite an exciting trial, this. There's new findings every single day, isn't it? But I think this has been done over many years by a lot of people. And it actually says, what you'd assume would be the case is that if you exercise, then it keeps your health in a better condition and will keep cancer from returning measurably, notably.
Yeah.
So I think it's 30-something%. And this is on people that have had cancer and then are encouraged to exercise. And there's many doctors over the years have said, not quite sure. If you feel like you can exercise, then exercise. They're now saying you should exercise as soon as you feel good enough.
This just
will make a big difference.
This makes me feel awful because I would have been pro-exercise, except I can't move. I'm in a wheelchair now, and I can't put on the right trainers, I can't change, I can't go to the showers, I can't do things. It's just I can't stand up. So there are a lot of people who are incapable of exercising, and therefore, rightly so, we see their increase of cancer growing.
Absolutely, and that's an issue that everybody's going to face, and you're obviously in a really difficult position. Any exercise, I think, is going to help, especially for these people that have had cancer once and can get out there. And it's very isolating as well, exercise.
So you're actually saying, if you're in redemption from cancer or whatever, you could keep it at bay by exercising.
It's actually better than a pill.
Yeah.
The results are actually better than a pill.
I think it's 36%, isn't it, for exercise?
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Me, Josh Howie. Angela Rayner's plan to introduce an official definition of Islamophobia could cost Labour 1 million votes and hand reform a 100-seat majority, according to new polling. The proposal, aimed at standardising how public bodies address anti-Muslim hate, has led to fears it could silence discussion around issues like grooming gangs. A JL Partners poll of over 2,000 voters found Labour support dropped when people were told about the plan, while reforms rose. Ministers insist free speech won't be stifled, but others think it's akin to antiquated blasphemy laws, which will protect Islam from legitimate criticism. I'm joined now by the Deputy Editor of Spite, Fraser Myers. Welcome. Thanks for having me. This polling has just been revealed. It's indicative of how strong people feel about this issue.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. It shows how fed up people are with their free speech being stifled. I was surprised to see how big an effect that this policy could potentially have on the polling numbers. So it suggests, it's polling from JL Partners, suggests that Labour would lose 3 points when people are made aware of this policy, and that's the equivalent of 1 million votes, and Reform would gain 1 point. So
and that transfers to like 80 seats or something.
Exactly, that goes from potentially a sort of Reform minority government to a major Reform majority government. So Labour really needs to take notice of this. This is not a fringe issue. This is an issue that concerns ordinary people up and down the country who are worried that we're effectively going to be introducing an Islamic blasphemy law.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with criticising any religion, right? That's our point. We have a right to do so, to offend people of religion. Now, there's a difference between, we've discussed this many times on the show, between anti-Muslim bigotry, which is real, and the idea of Islamophobia, which previously had been defined as anything to do with Muslimness or making it about racism, where, of course, Islam is not a race.
Yeah, but the current definition, or the definition that they're working on, seems certain to equate Islamophobia or criticism of Islam with racism, essentially. There was a 2018 all-party parliamentary group report on anti-Muslim hatred. Their definition of Islamophobia, as you said, talked about Muslimness. Many of the same people involved in that definition have been brought to work on the last one.
And it's been secretive, right? It's been behind closed doors.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly who's been partaking.
The whole process has been entirely secretive. And I can understand why, because people are not going to like, what they will probably come up with. But if you look at that last definition, it says explicitly that even discussions around grooming gangs are stigmatising to Muslims. Now, if anyone knows anything about the grooming gang scandal, it's surely the fact that many people in the local authorities or in the police felt that investigating it would be considered racist. That was one of the key things that allowed this atrocity to go on. So for Labour to repeat that mistake, but this time through a definition of Islamophobia, is absolutely unforgivable.
So there is an irony here, of course, that Labour, to be cynical, is pushing forward with this definition of Islamophobia to try and shore up support amongst Muslims, but would then lose far greater support.
Yeah, because, I mean, Muslims are only 5% of the country. We can sometimes have an exaggerated idea about how many Muslims there are in Britain. And, other people vote. People notice these things. People notice when certain groups are being pandered to and in a way that's unfair. And that's obviously been the case with in relation to Islam. I mean, even without this Islamophobia definition, people can be convicted for burning the Quran in the UK. In a supposedly secular country, our hate speech laws have already been wielded to the effect of essentially being blasphemy laws. So adding this Islamophobia definition, which would basically affect all public bodies, will only make it even more difficult to speak out about difficult issues. And that's not just grooming gangs, that's also things like terrorism, questions about the burqa, all kinds of things that, cousin marriage, anything that's basically could be tangentially related to Islam. It doesn't even have to be about Islam and Muslims. I mean, that's what's so striking about it. This word Muslimness could just mean, has the vague sense of being Muslim to some people. It's very alarming.
So this ties in to another report that came out this week, talking about how people feel afraid to talk about certain issues. It's particularly, they were talking about Islam. About half of the respondents were afraid to talk about Islam. Again, that is a real problem in terms of in a Western liberal democracy, but also it could lead to feelings of resentment, right? If people feel like they can't just vocalise concerns. There's a difference between people talking about issues and expressing hate.
Absolutely, and there are legitimate concerns that, again, there's a big difference between tarring all Muslims with a certain brush and then raising issues around sectarianism. I mean, this report was actually commissioned actually in the wake of the Batley Grammar School incident, where a teacher was essentially run into hiding by a local mob.
Still isn't hiding.
It's still in hiding to this day. No one in the police has ever arrested anyone for making death threats towards him. No one, it's clear where the authorities side. They're not protecting him. They're protecting the feelings of this mob. So, that's why people are afraid to voice their opinions. People are also afraid, there's safety fears, but there's also fears of accusations of racism. But this report's interesting because it touched on all kinds of areas, and it's probably won't surprise people to learn that it was white, working-class, older men who feel like their opinions are the most stifled, probably because they have the least fashionable opinions.
Yeah, well, yeah. No,
on these tricky subjects.
It is interesting that was the group that was revealed to feel like they can't talk about any issues, talk about immigration, talk about anything. What I thought was very interesting was that the most the subject that people wanted to talk about least was the trans issue. I think it was 41%. It was way more than any of the other issues deal with ethnicity. This was the one issue that people felt like they really weren't able to vocalise on.
And that's interesting because the way the survey was done, it was because a lot of people felt that there were things they couldn't say about race, ethnicity, all those kinds of subjects, but they also recognised there is a need to be sensitive and you shouldn't, go barging around saying, hateful things. The trans issue, you would have thought by now that the tide was turning a little bit, that people would feel a bit more emboldened, particularly after the Supreme Court decision, to say how they feel on the trans issue. But no, people still clearly feel that they know they're going to have, they're going to be jumped on as soon as they say something vaguely gender critical or, let's put it, less truthful or sensible.
Yeah, and also I think it's interesting that Christians were the most likely to promote free speech.
Which is interesting because that's very encouraging. Obviously, historically, it hasn't been the case. I mean, I remember, certainly when I was growing up, a lot of the censorship around blasphemy would have been in relation to offending Christians. But it's good to see that
Jerry Springer,
the opera, the threats to close that down, this Mary Whitehouse's various crusades. But now it seems that Christians, they know they're on the receiving end of this censorship. They see the amount of Christian preachers, for instance, who are arrested. Often they're not convicted. By the time these cases get to court, they're thrown out because they're ridiculous. But the threat of being arrested is there. And so, Christians are unable to speak their minds, unfortunately.
Yeah, and 25% don't want to talk about religion at all because of safety, which reflects what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just,
To have a quarter of the population polled say they don't want to talk about religion but for their physical sake, that again is not a good development for our country.
It's absolutely extraordinary. So, earlier we were talking about the sort of legal threat to free speech, but far bigger is just this internal sense among ourselves that we cannot speak, that we're too afraid to speak, that we essentially have to self-censor. That is really unhealthy for society. How can we have open discussions about our future, where we want the country to go, if such a significant number of people feel they just cannot speak their minds?
Well, absolutely. Look, you've got 10 seconds now. What do you want to say to the nation? Free speech. No, too late. So, Rachel Myers. Round of applause. We'll have to read Spike to find out. Next on Free Speech Nation, a judge rules it's unlawful for police to march in pride in uniform, saying the decision by Northumbria's chief constable breached impartiality. Is it time the police just got on with policing? The woman behind the pushback, Lindsay Smith, joins me next. Don't miss it. See you in 2 minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across Europe over the next couple of days, with plenty of showers around across parts of France, even northern parts of Italy too. Maybe even Madeira and the Canary Islands catching 1 or 2 isolated showers. But for parts of Spain, Portugal, Italy, even parts of Greece, there's plenty of sunshine on offer. And the southern Mediterranean is seeing plenty of that sunshine, though perhaps a little breezy. Temperatures generally in the low to mid-30s and similar through the outlook as well. Plenty of sunshine on the cards and feeling very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. After an unsettled and showery weekend, not a lot will change as we go into Monday, so further heavy downpours and some persistent spells of rain, courtesy of this area of low pressure that's not really moving anywhere over the next day or two, so it's going to maintain that unsettled flavour to the weather with some showers or longer spells of rain. For Sunday evening, the heaviest rain and most persistent rain will be across southern parts of Scotland, moving into Northern Ireland through the early hours as well. So it's here where we're most concerned about some flooding. There are warnings in place, so do check our website or app for further details on those. Heavy showers across the southeast of England as well later in the night, but not a cold night. Temperatures, generally speaking, holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. So for Monday, it's going to be an unsettled start to the new working week, particularly across the southeast of England, where there'll be some pretty heavy downpours moving in from the south, so some thunderstorms already perhaps possible here. Sunny and dry conditions across parts of the Midlands, eastern parts of Wales, but further north and west, we run into that heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland, western and southwestern Scotland, with some rain also across the far northeast of Scotland too. So not many places escaping with much in the way of dry weather first thing, and it's going to stay pretty changeable and unsettled through the course of Monday as well. That rain lingers across parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England for much of the day. Further east, it's a mixture of sunny spells and sudden heavy downpours, some thundery downpours too, some hail and gusty winds, but nonetheless in between the showers, in the sunshine, it should feel quite warm with temperatures in the mid-20s. For Tuesday, we're not expecting it to be quite as unsettled. Having said that, it will be fairly cloudy. There will be some showers around in places and perhaps some longer spells of rain across western parts of Scotland and northwest England. But despite that, it should still feel fairly warm in any brightness. A changeable picture, though, as we go through the rest of the week. A lot of cloud around in general, but in any sunshine, it will still feel pretty warm.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. A judge has ruled that Northumbria Police Chief Constable Vanessa Jardine acted unlawfully by permitting uniformed officers to take part in last year's Newcastle Pride March. The case was brought by Lindsay Smith, a gender-critical lesbian, who claimed the move undermined police neutrality. The High Court agreed, stating Jardine's decision exceeded reasonable judgment and underscoring the importance of police impartiality. Northumbria Police responded by reaffirming their commitment to fairness and support for all communities. So I am very happy to announce that in the studio she has made it. Lindsay, you're here. Look at her. Victorious.
I know.
So what inspired you to bring this case to court then?
Well, it all started when I got banned from Newcastle United and they decided to get involved in this little witch hunt against me. And
you'd send some tweets.
Oh, yeah, like, you know, I said things like, just your daily reminder, trans women are men, you know. And
shocking.
It's blasphemous. And then, obviously, it just stemmed from there. I was lucky enough to find myself with Harry Miller on the end of a phone. Graham Linehan was fantastic because he alerted Harry and Harry got the Free Speech Union on it and it kind of just went from there.
So... that case, and you've been on the show before and you've talked about those cases, but this is something different to that, right?
Yeah.
So what is it? Were you at Pride last year, or you saw their involvement? And what we're talking about here is not the police being off duty. This is the police there in an official capacity being part of Pride, the modern Pride, progressive Pride, which arguably pushes forward gender ideology.
Yeah, they were physically marching in it. Me and Harry went undercover, so his disguise was phenomenal. I went dressed as a hot dog.
Okay. You identified as a hot dog.
I identified as a hot dog for the day. We had a backstory and everything. I
think we got a picture of you there. That's it, yeah. That looks like a sexual fetish to me. But then I'm Jewish, so when I see pork, I'm like, actually, yeah.
Yeah, no, but it was quite an eye-opening day. You know, I saw things that I'd never used to see when I hadn't been to Pride for years, so it was a new experience. I saw, like, satanic flags, there was anti-Semitic chanting, you know, there was police walking around with the flags, and then worst of all was the chief constable in uniform, right smack bang in the middle with all the police officers, which we managed to find and snap as well, so, yeah.
So the idea is that if the police are there and a part of that, then there's no way they could be impartial when it comes to, say, that if there was some sort of protest or march by gender-critical people, how would you expect them to be able to police that fairly?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, as well, the judge actually said that, the Northumbria Police's barrister, when the judge asked that question, he said, well, it's up to the Gold Commander to authorise a counter-protest, which is the Chief Constable. So she probably wouldn't have authorised it in any ways, to be fair. So that just, again, shows the level of impartiality, because any time, say, you get a Let Women Speak protest come up the North East or anything like that, guaranteed you're going to have the opposing activists there and there's no issue with it. But when it comes to gender criticals, you know, not so much.
Well, this is it, and this is what we've seen time and time again, that it has to be taken to court to be treated fairly.
It seems to be. You have to take them to court to make them understand. You know, I've actually said it's quite sad that a normal person's had to turn around and tell the Chief Constable of Northumbria Police the law, but there we go.
I can only imagine that there's going to be a personal cost to this, taking your local police force to court. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, I mean, there has been sacrifices. I think I'd be lying if I said it hadn't cost me things in my personal life, but my attitude is everything happens for a reason. I've met some wonderful people throughout it that I never would have got to meet otherwise. So, you know, you have to count your blessings where you can, you know.
Yeah, no, and because there's a real-world implication here from this the High Court finding, right? In that other police forces are much more likely now to have to follow suit. If they've seen that this is what the Northumbria Police Force have to do, then surely now they're going to change their ways.
Yeah, well, I actually instructed my lawyers to write to the Scotland Police for the Glasgow Pride. So they wrote to them, basically, you know, after we got the confirmation that Northumbria Police would have nothing at all to do with it. We also wrote a letter to Glasgow, obviously, for their Pride event and things. They actually said, should we do it? I went, yeah, let's get them all.
When it comes down to it, this is about our police being used as a sort of a political tool to sell this ideology when we just want them to protect us, to protect the law.
Yeah, and it's not just about the trans side of it. I don't agree with the rainbow flag in there. I don't agree with them pontificating for any sort of political standing at the end of the day. They're supposed to be impartial, and each member of public, regardless of the end of the spectrum you're on, should feel like the police are going to treat them in a fair and impartial way. And at the moment, you know, there's a few issues, whether it's pro-Palestine, whether it's, LGBTQ+ and the LGBs going against it. There's no guarantee of it. And, you know, trust in the police has been severely shaken, and I think it's about time the worked to gain everyone's trust back.
Absolutely. That's the saddest thing. And the scariest thing is to see activist police forces and someone, in this case, running the police force who very much seem to be doing it with an agenda.
Yeah.
And being held now to account because of your actions.
Yeah. So she is the LGBTQ+ lead for the police force. So she is the main driver of it all. So she was the perfect person to really go against in it. You know, it just happened that she was the chief constable of my local police force, and it was her police that targeted me. So it's just funny the way everything works out, really, isn't it?
I guess so. But I guess the onus is on you, is that you're going to have to make sure that you're not out at drinking at 1 in the morning and being Larry.
I'm not
giving any excuse to anybody. I think one of my favourite things was I saw when the BBC reported this story, they were saying that you identified it as a lesbian. Described yourself as a lesbian.
Yeah.
Yes, and you pointed out, no, I don't describe myself as lesbian. I am a lesbian.
I emailed the person who wrote the article, and by the next morning I had a slightly grovelling email being like, it wasn't him, it was us that suggested it. So. And then I tweeted saying, look, there's been a ceasefire now. We're no longer at war. I accept their apology.
That's very.
I don't hold a grudge.
Very magnanimous of you. So what next? Does that mean, is this it? Is it over now? You've taken your local football team to court. You've taken your police to court. Is there anybody else on your radar?
Yeah, actually.
She's like, no, Lindsay's coming. Watch out.
Yeah, the FA's next on my list. I actually have the same lawyers. Same lawyers who have helped me take the police are actually, and the same barrister as well, who's phenomenal, are helping me take the FA to court as well, to judicial review, over their rainbow laces, because that, for me, again, is political. If you're going to... The problem is, they say it's a choice, but if a player has the nerve to not put the armband on, they're plastered everywhere, and they're accused of being this, that and the other, so that needs nipped in the bud as well.
Yeah. And then, finally, you might get a rest. And you can identify as a lesbian in peace.
Yes. A lesbian who's finished suing everyone. That's what I'll describe myself as after all of this.
What for you has been the highlight of this process? And what words would you have to other people out there? Because I imagine people would be inspired. You're a regular human being, yet you saw an injustice and you decided to take action.
It's just to stick to your guns, you know, because it can be very easy, especially when there's like pylons coming on online and people are calling you everything. It's very easy to take it to heart. So it's just kind of just to learn to shrug it off and keep going. If you know you're right and you've got reality and common sense on your side, then stick at it, you know, because the internet's the internet. It's not real. What they're going to do, really.
Well, you've had a real impact on the real world, so thank you so much for doing that. And you're here. Thank you for coming and joining us in studio. This is great. We're all going to go for a pint afterwards. We're going to get messed up. So, next on Free Speech Nation, social sensations, more questions from our audience, and then a pint. See you in 2 minutes. Thank you.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Well, in the past few minutes, Meghan Markle has paid a sweet tribute to Princess Lilibet as she turns 4 today. It comes just a day after the Duchess of Sussex said she'd love to go into business with her daughter in the future.
Well, that's all it is, another money-making effort there. That's to make up for nobody buying her jam. I mean, do you really care if you see a picture of her kid or not? You do, that's it.
I'd like to see her face, to be honest.
I don't. Now, back to Diana, of course, who was the real star and style icon and whatever. And one day, I can remember, I complimented her on her outfit that she was wearing, and it was the same colour as the outfit you were wearing yesterday.
Bottle green?
No. RUC green, Royal Ulster Constabulary green. As she pointed out to me, she said, yes, RUC green, what do you think? And then she went into a whole, literally, sob story. She started crying about a bomb explosion that had been in Northern Ireland or whatever. She was very, very close, very connected with all of that. But, yeah, so...
And knowledgeable as well, by the sounds of things.
She was very knowledgeable, yeah. And then she went on to talk about William and Harry going to school and how that upset her, and they went to boarding school or whatever it is. So we talked about all those things. And I forgot why I was going to tell you that story, but there was some reason. But she was... it was the same colour as what you were wearing yesterday, anyway, the green.
Oh, and she was so lovely by the sounds of things.
She was film star status. I mean, you just saw her in a room and you would go...
Wow.
She's special, yeah, she's special.
And I think whoever that was speaking in that report there saying, one of the designers, I think it was the designer of the wedding dress, saying it was just clothes or just a dress, but then Diana wore it and then it was something special. And it became part of history. And that's exactly what happened.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time now for Social Sensations, the part of the show where we look at what's been going viral this week on social media. First up is this video.
People are gonna hate this. Anybody that brings up the Palestine war that's never been to Palestine, y'all the same that was against Trump. Niggas is programmed. Don't know about Palestine. You just don't give a about it. The media made you give a about it, and it's that you put up on your timeline.
The thing is, Kerry, I've always said I'm a big fan of Kanye West. So he's done a real 180 here, right?
Yeah, I mean...
That was Kanye West.
Yeah, that was Kanye, and it was... I'm finding myself agreeing with Kanye. What's going on? What's happening to the world? It's all turning upside down, inside out. Yeah, yes.
Is it okay now to listen to... Wait, what are you doing? What is this?
This is, don't worry about it at all. It's just to show the world that I wasn't having a hit on the
Please don't fall around here.
Oh my God, you look so good, Josh. Scared me na maga. Conna sa totu.
You really are prepared for anything, do you?
Yeah.
Did you knit it yourself?
Yes, this is from my home collection here. It's me!
Aideen was just trying to cover the real moustache underneath there.
So, next up is this video. No, it's...
He's a man. It's not a tricky situation, it's the law. No, gender identity doesn't trump biological sex, I'm afraid. It doesn't, it's the law. Look at the Supreme Court ruling.
If someone wants to use that toilet and they're saying that they're a lady, they're a lady.
No, they're not. They're a biological man. What about us females? No one asked us if we want to allow men in our toilets, and we don't.
I can't prove that that's a man or a woman.
Well, we can tell because we've got eyes. We can see that's a man.
I can't see it's a man. I don't know it's a man. If it's identifying as a woman.
It's a biological man. We have eyes, we have ears.
How do you know?
Because I've got eyes, mate.
Yeah, this is a very frustrating video, and kudos to that woman for standing her ground there and confronting someone who was now breaking the law. It's been shown to be breaking the law. Obviously, you're dressed like this because you want to go into the men's toilets.
Yes. So I, as you know, identify as somebody who doesn't like to queue. So I do go to the men's toilets. The poor. It's hard though for that person. I feel sorry for them. And
which one?
Oh,
the woman trying to...
Everybody in this situation, the videoing. Like, just do it really sneaky. Go in when nobody's looking, not when somebody's filming. Now that I'm a man, I can say what I want.
Yeah. But went to the officials and said, look, this person is breaking the law. This is a biological male in the women's toilets. And the man, the official, who's meant to know the law and uphold it, was just like, what's your problem?
No. I think there's a lot of backfire going on, an ideology that ran far too fast, too hard, too aggressively. I do feel a little bit like that. I feel like we've got to be careful about not being cruel on the way out of it and actually filming someone and so on. So I'm not totally comfortable with that. But at the same time, I think there's been a ruling because things reached that point. So.
No, but
Yeah.
No, this is it. Other people feel like who is actually being affected here? Who's it cruel to? It's cruel to the women who want to be able to go to the toilet in safety without a male. I think that's the point, and there's nothing to stop the trans woman from going to a disabled toilet or going into the male toilet. You know, them being there was breaking the law. And it's not nice seeing someone being confronted that way, but if that's what the situation we are, then that's it. That's it. If you don't want to be confronted, yes, keep out. Keep out of the men's toilets, you.
When I go into the men's toilets, men love it. They're very welcoming.
Well, that's the thing. The strange thing from all of these debates is that that's the one thing that's never sort of questioned. You're not going, men, keep out of our toilets.
Yeah, they're like, oi, oi. You should try it. You'll never be more popular than a woman in a man's toilet.
So, look, do we have some questions from the audience? We have someone, question at the back.
I did the most awful thing at Waterloo Station tonight when on my
Okay,
here.
yeah.
I went into the gents' toilet, and the only reason I realised it was the gents, I was down at the bottom of the stairs, was the smell.
That's so true. It's so true.
So just say this is. So you went. What's your name, madam? Eleanor. So Eleanor went to in Waterloo. You went to the men's toilets, and it was smelly. Do you know why that is? It's because when men urinate, we're splashing around, and that's all we do. We love splashing around.
Great.
Assistant, and I said, oh my goodness, I'm in the wrong toilet, and a couple of blokes at the urinal sort of went,
Yeah, they love it.
You weren't looking. Do you know there are a couple of men traumatised by you now?
Not just come through, the ladies is just...
No, men try to make it smelly so that blind people would know which toilet is supposed to go in.
There's a certain logic. So, Tabsin, you've got a question, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of rhetorical because I was at Lindsay's judicial review, and there was only one reporter there, and that was from GB News. Why? I know you can't answer for any of that, but it's a sort of thought, isn't it? Why? Because, and I'd say it's because it's gender critical, that nobody cares.
No, I would say that is very indicative, is the whole... I mean, look, GB News, the whole point of being set up is to cover some of the issues that other channels and news outlets aren't covering.
It was a monumental decision, because if you think about it, it does not just go to the police. Are the NHS supposed to be
No, of course. But even when it's about the police, I guess it's about this case was about the impartiality within our police force, whether or not it's not specifically has to be about this particular issue. Yeah. No, absolutely. Whether holding them to account.
NHS, councils, you have to be fair and impartial.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what we've seen now.
So, like I said, it was a rhetorical question, but why were you lot the only people there?
Because we're amazing.
Well,
Did I answer that? Gosh, I really hope I get that raise. So yeah, I mean, this is a sad thing that we've seen all along. So much of this could have been resolved so much earlier if the press, our media, hadn't failed to cover these issues, right?
And they still don't.
No, well, they're not, and they still not. That's the thing. Yes. Well, look, thank you for joining us on GB News for Free Speech Nation. Thank you very much to my panel, Kerry Marks, Aidy McQueen. Round of applause for them. To all of my brilliant guests this evening. And if you want to join us live in the studio, be part of our wonderful audience, you can. Please go to gbnews.com/tickets. Stay tuned for the brilliant Ben Leo tonight. That's next. Thank you very much for joining us for Free Speech Nation. See you next week. Take care.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. After an unsettled and showery weekend, not a lot will change as we go into Monday, so further heavy downpours and some persistent spells of rain, courtesy of this area of low pressure that's not really moving anywhere over the next day or two, so it's going to maintain that unsettled flavour to the weather with some showers or longer spells of rain. For Sunday evening, the heaviest rain and most persistent rain will be across southern parts of Scotland, moving into Northern Ireland through the early hours as well. So it's here where we're most concerned about some flooding. There are warnings in place, so do check our website or app for further details on those. Heavy showers across the southeast of England as well later in the night, but not a cold night. Temperatures, generally speaking, holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. So for Monday, it's going to be an unsettled start to the new working week, particularly across the southeast of England, where there'll be some pretty heavy downpours moving in from the south, so some thunderstorms already perhaps possible here. Sunny and dry conditions across parts of the Midlands, eastern parts of Wales, but further north and west, we run into that heavier rain for parts of Northern Ireland, western and southwestern Scotland, with some rain also across the far northeast of Scotland too. So not many places escaping with much in the way of dry weather first thing, and it's going to stay pretty changeable and unsettled through the course of Monday as well. That rain lingers across parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and parts of southwest England for much of the day. Further east, it's a mixture of sunny spells and sudden heavy downpours, some thundery downpours too, some hail and gusty winds, but nonetheless in between the showers, in the sunshine, it should feel quite warm.